Okay, good morning and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with our public hearing for our 2025-26 DDA budget and open up the floor for any public comments on our budget. Thank you for being here. No comments? Okay, public hearing's closed. Moving on to approval of the agenda.
Approve the agenda.
Motion from Bruce. Second. Second from Ben. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment on agenda items.
I got comments on that.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
My name is John Hosworth. I'm the chapter commander of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association of Michigan, chapter 35-7. I understand that the karaoke fundraiser nights are on the agenda today, so I want to speak on that as far as that goes. My understanding is that there was a recommendation made by this body to city council previously to deny that. My understanding was that this body was supposed to make recommendations on street closure events. This is not a street closure event. We're simply putting a karaoke machine on the sidewalk. We're not closing the street. I don't know why the body would make any recommendation whatsoever. Looking at your bylaws, it doesn't appear that the body was created to make those type of recommendations. It's a Public Act 197 body, so I also don't know why you're making any recommendations, period. But to address any concerns that you may have with the event, I've got Ms. Hernandez here from Talk About It. I also have Ms. Stephanie Travis here from the next door business, Third Coast Boutique, who are partnering with us on these events. The events are simply to raise money for local veterans in need. That's all they're there for, and to have a good time doing it. Our intent for this event is simply to have people singing on the street until 9 o'clock, which is when the noise ordinance kicks in for any type of exuberance on the street anyway. We're not looking to close down the sidewalk. We're not looking to close down the street. We just want to sing. So I don't know why anybody would have any trouble with that. But I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Why outside?
Why outside? Because we're bikers, sir. We have motorcycles out on the street. We like to admire each other's bikes. We look at them. We draw people in by having things outside. Being inside completely negates the point.
And the objections that people have about the noise. Some are disturbed by the noise. Others are eating downtown, walking back and forth.
Have you ever been downtown on a Thursday night on that side of River Street?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you been there when we had one of our events?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see the crowd around Talk About It? Okay. So we're bringing business into there, which was the idea of it, is to create a partnership with downtown businesses to bring more business downtown, which I would think would be good for everybody. There was somebody complaining across the street. One complainer shouldn't stop dozens of people from having a good time legally. And what I mean legally is the noise wasn't excessive. When the cops came to tell us, hey, the noise is too excessive, we turned the noise down. And we never went up that loud again. So it's not like we're flaunting the law or anything like that. We're working with people to try and have everybody be satisfied.
With it being on the sidewalk, and this might be a question for Bill or Kyle, do they have to maintain the 5 feet of walkway?
Yes, that's what we're asking.
Okay.
Which we can.
And is this, Tara, are you putting out your deck?
No.
You're not? So this is just gonna be in
We
the,
only ever use the space closest to the building. We never, the bike night never extended, other than patrons being out there eating and participating. Like most of the people that were on the deck during our bike night, this is not the big bike night. We're not referring to the big giant party we had. We're referring to just Thursdays.
Which we're not doing this year.
We're not doing that this year. The only people ever on the deck were patrons. People there eating, people there that weren't even really associated with bike night. They just happened to walk by, see we were doing it. We did have families stop in. We did a downtown like trivia thing where vet ran trivia and a bunch of families sat on the deck and participated in trivia. But we only ever, John and his group only ever used our area closest to the building. So we never, the event, the only time it would extend past is when we had people waiting to get in, which is a normal thing in the summer. We can't control that. I can't control having, clearance when people are waiting to get into the restaurant.
And I'm gonna say something, and I was out there multiple times, we've had people stop, dance and sing, and oh my gosh, we even had Tony trucks out there dancing and singing and come in the store, so.
She even came in and thanked me for what we were doing, so.
Right, because I mean, she supports veterans, and if you guys really don't support veterans, you guys have your freedom because of veterans and for this gentleman here, so.
I have a comment on that. I read this letter and there is a part of there that suggests that we have something against veterans or bikers, and I find that a bit offensive. I don't think anybody in this group or city council has anything against veterans or bikers. I am a biker girl at heart. I grew up riding motorcycles. My husband and I both had Harleys before we had kids. I would love to see a bike night downtown. But, you know, to me, karaoke on the sidewalk, that it's not, for me personally, it's not appealing, but that's my personal opinion. I don't think anybody here, again, this has nothing to do with veterans or bikers.
Okay.
So I just want to make that clear. And, you know, there were complaints about trash, about the noise. So,
Because I personally stayed after every bike night and made sure we had a detail to clean up. I honestly would love to hear who complained about the trash, because I have no idea how that could possibly.
I actually hired 2 extra people every Thursday night, which was great, because then I'm offering more jobs to people to make sure that the outside, they stayed after an hour to make sure outside.
I do request that this doesn't turn into a conversational. Every person
yeah.
does have 5 minutes, so just for a board standpoint, please this isn't meant to be back and forth with the public. This is 5 minutes for the public to say their comment, not supposed to be conversational. I just want that to be perfectly clear. And then for the public, if you could each just one by one make your comments, and then we can stay within that 5-minute range, just so we can keep the structure of the meeting.
Sure. Just to address concerns of whether or not you think it's appropriate, this is a quasi-governmental body and content neutrality has to be part of your decision. If you're denying it or recommending to deny it because you don't like it, that would be a breach of the First Amendment. So I would just caution you against that. That's all the comments I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hausworth. Any other public comment?
He covered everything, so.
Thank you for being here. Moving on to item 5, approval of minutes from a regular meeting on May 14th.
Motion to approve minutes.
Motion from Ben,
I'll second.
second from Sam. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Financials for May. Andrew?
Right, so the total that went out in the unpaid bills report was $20,565.66. Some things in that were the QuickBooks monthly fee, which will be increasing next month, the Chamber Executive Director fee, the Enhanced City Service Quarter 4 payments, and then the County Cash Collaboration payment. Something to expect as we're wrapping up the end of this fiscal year is we will be receiving that delinquent taxes payment this week. So I know that category on the financials is still blank, but Ed told me it was coming this week. That's fine.
Okay.
I would like to just address too with that county cash payment for the airport promotion, there may have been a misunderstanding in the way that it was going to be paid out from a monthly standpoint and just reconciled every month. But they were requesting a one-time payment and then the DDA gets reimbursed with everything that's not used at the end of the year. And so I just want to make sure the board is aware of that. And that's what Nicole's mentioning when she says that there is that county cash contribution that we're doing.
Thanks for the clarification. Any questions for staff? Andrew, Carmen? We do need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Bruce.
Second.
Second from Sammy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Back to you, Andrew, for executive report.
Yep, so this month, we're a little light on the contact simply because I was out for a week. And so.
Why?
Because I got married.
Oh.
But-
Congratulations.
Thank you, but some things that did happen, there is kind of a lot of movement amongst existing businesses within the community that are looking to relocate on River Street. We had about 3 contacts with businesses that are looking to relocate on River Street. As I've mentioned before in the past, we're really kind of getting tight on real estate downtown. We have about 10 vacancies, but most of those vacancies are blighted redevelopment projects, not move-in ready projects where a small business can just plug and play. Outside of that, they do have some real estate movement as well. I know the Hart Building has kind of changed realtors. And so that's back on the market. I know some people thought it was under contract. That's not the case. Music Vault is under contract, which is exciting. And then currently working with the city at the moment to pre-create Oprah districts, or so obsolete Property Redevelopment Act. It is a tax abatement when somebody does a redevelopment project. The process for that is creating a district on that property, and then the developer has to apply for a certificate. If we get properties to already have those districts, it kind of streamlines the process, makes it easier. It shows the city's commitment on those properties. So we're looking to do that on Ware Hardware, Dairy Jones, as well as the PNC property. So we're working right now with the city to make that happen for the DDA district. And that's all for me, Kyle.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions for Andrew? Okay. Moving on to reports from subcommittees, facade grant.
Yep, facade grant, so 390 River Street, this is the River Street Market. They had requested a facade grant for an awning and signage. The subcommittee reviewed that application and is making a recommendation to the board that we approve that in the amount of $9,000.
Any questions about this project?
I don't have any questions, but I'll make a recommendation to approve the $9,000.
A motion?
A motion.
Okay. Thanks, Deanna.
Second.
Second from Sammy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Streetscape update.
Streetscape, so right now, Brandon Jensen is finalizing that presentation with some numbers that he had given at the last DDA meeting. He's just waiting on Spicer to get those numbers over to him so he can put that in that presentation, and then we can start presenting to other city boards and commissions and stakeholders within the community. Additionally, Spicer is working on a proposal for the RAP project. Since we were awarded that, we do need to finalize those engineering drawings to kind of 100% or 90% completion, so construction can actually begin and they can bid that out in the fall here.
Questions for Andrew, Bill, or Streetscape Subcommittee? Everybody quiet this morning? Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Moving on to item Z, events.
Nothing new under the subcommittee line item there.
Cap financing,
Nothing under gap financing either.
target business.
Target business, the board didn't, or the subcommittee did meet this month. We're just continuing to build out that list of potential businesses. But back to my point, we kind of have a lot of real estate movers and shakers in the community right now looking to come into the DDA district, and with not having a whole lot, it's kind of hard to identify a business that has the capacity to do a, $1.5 million redevelopment, because that's not really a small business at that point when they have that kind of equity to throw around. So,
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Old business, Riverwalk update.
So the site work, getting into the punch list, there's the boards that were replaced. We're also looking at a skirting underneath the switchback, the new switchback on the west side of the marina. Also working on putting concrete. This is going to be an internal project, but on the other switchback over by Dick's Barber Shop. The landscaping is still to start. That's going to be, and we're getting the new signage created right now.
For the, still the switchback?
This is in concert with the veterans, or I'm sorry, with the Visitor Bureau. Okay, it's a new, just historic signage, also some wayfinding. So that's being fabricated right now. I think the main thing is going to be the landscaping, and then the painting was also delayed because of the weather. So I think they're behind in some other projects, so that's going to be later on, I think in the next few months. Get going. On the North River Walk, we had 3 bids. One bid was low. We're kind of really looking at that one because some of the numbers aren't making sense. So that one's kind of, we're working through that right now. But more to come on that.
Bill, can you remind us what the scope of work is for the North River Walk?
So it doesn't include the band shell. There's some issues there that we're addressing internally, but it's basically creating a pathway down the landing, kind of fixing up a lot of overgrowth that, and then, so I can give you guys the actual specs on it, but basically cleaning that whole area up.
Is it essentially rebuilding the existing deck structures that are there?
It is, but then also adding some other ADA pathways.
Okay.
Some lighting as well.
Right.
And just vegetation.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to item B, budget approval. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we presented the budget back in March, and so subcommittee had reviewed that, made some tweaks. The only big tweak that was made is the line item for the facade program in 24-25. And so that's I think the most significant one. Nicole, do you have anything to add regarding changes to the budget since we first presented it?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so the 24-25 one was due to the fact that we had facade application changed to a rolling program. And so we received 2 applications just in the last couple months. And so that's changed how much is actually going to come out of that line item during next year.
Okay. We do need to pass this budget. Any questions about it?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Bruce,
Second.
second from Bill. Thanks, Lindsay. Any discussion or questions on it? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Process went smoothly. It was very well done. Thank you. Staff especially, and the subcommittee. DDA event application, Andrew.
Should I excuse myself from this?
You don't have to, I don't think so.
Just recuse yourself from the vote on
Oh, okay.
TJ's application.
Okay.
And yeah, and so with the DDA event application section, City Council and the Chief of Police did request that the DDA make recommendations on downtown events. Hence, that's why we do make those recommendations. Bill, I don't know if you have anything to add as to.
Just that, I know we've been discussing for a while, signatures from the neighbors. I mean, with the downtown, with the businesses being close together, can be negative externalities with events. So it's just taking into account consideration for the neighbors. It is a business district. There's considerations and the neighbors need to be consulted about some of these events. So we had a special ad hoc committee with council set up. We had recommendations to include the DDA. One thing you'll see later on the agenda is to approve that DDA event application. This formalizes that requirement for the signatures, also kind of includes the sidewalk, things like that. And I think you also want to see that the DDA approve it prior to the city council considering it, because I think it's just kind of a process standpoint that's been going to the city, back to the DDA, back to council. The council does want the DDA's input on these. I think it makes sense when I modify the council policy regarding special events with the recommendation of this board that DDA must first approve it before council looks into it. So I think with the exception of the major events of the Sleigh Bell and Forest.
Okay.
Let's be clear too, for today, we're only making recommendations. We are not approving anything. The approval would only come if the new DDA event application were implemented. But today we are just doing recommendations. We are not approving anything. But yeah, if the first one on the list is TJ's Block Party event.
I have a comment on that. If I can, just really quick, in the new DDA event application, which I think is,
Can we talk about that under that line item, or is this specific to TJ's?
well, it's kind of specific
Okay, go
to
ahead.
TJ's and following events, just. So, in the application, I'm just wondering if there is a, trash removal, not a policy in place, but if there's a plan in place for trash removal. But we can talk about that under the application. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
specifically on the TJ's block party. How would this board like to proceed?
Motion to recommend approval.
Motion from Bruce to recommend approval.
Second.
Second from Ben. Any discussion?
I think one of the things that is important about managing the public space, which is what we've been asked to do, make recommendations about managing this public space. Everybody uses downtown. Everybody has needs to pass through, to go where they want to go, to do what they want to do. So there's a high bar on closing the street. In order to meet that high bar, the applicant, formed a committee of all the interested folks and that participated in that. And it's demonstrated in past events that they can pull it off and clean up afterwards. So my criteria, and part of that is reflected in the new form, is met. So I just want to make that comment.
Thanks, Bruce. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Second one, Talk About It Bike Night Karaoke Fundraisers. This was on our last agenda. We can let our decision stand, or we can make a motion for an alternative recommendation.
The application was changed. They did change the frequency to every Thursday to every other Thursday. And then they did address the comments that were made within the recommendation to council. So they did have a one-pager in there that kind of spelled out their reasonings and justifications for, our kind of recommendation or our comments to city council.
Thanks for the clarification.
I only have one comment on the specific event. As it was just forementioned that I'm guessing the social district will be utilized here for this event. And was mentioned that people like to go and view the bikes, and it's an outside event because people like to walk around and see the bikes, which are parked in the street. So my thought is why perhaps that they apply to have a shut down the street permit if we're mixing alcohol and going out to the street to see bikes. I see that as could be potentially a dangerous situation.
The application is not to close the street, though.
Correct.
Okay.
But I was just
Okay.
expressing the concern for safety there.
Okay.
I think people can look at bikes from the sidewalk, though. I mean, if the bikes are parked along in parking spots, people can stay on the sidewalk and
They
see
can.
bikes.
They can. And with the social district, you can't be in the street with the drinks anyways, right? I couldn't imagine. You can cross the street, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine you could be in the
It
street.
encompasses.
Yeah, the common areas encompass the street.
Have we been made aware of any businesses that have realized a negative effect from this event?
I don't know.
None have approached me, Tyler, not from a business standpoint, no.
I'm the only one that stays open till 9 o'clock at night for bike night, and I actually make like 30 to 40% more profit staying open late, so.
Public comments over, sorry. There'll be another opportunity after the meeting. Does the board want to move on this?
They've addressed what we brought up as concerns last time. I mean, leaving the right of way for sidewalks, I'd be willing to make a motion to support hosting this event.
Okay.
Can we, I know I'm gonna jump right in the middle. After talking to a few people about this.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
We do have a motion on the
Okay.
floor, so you can.
I'll make the comments afterwards.
Thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Tyler. Go ahead.
So my comments are talking to a few individuals, because I was opposed to it in the beginning. I just don't like the optics. I'm a veteran. I love bikes. It's just that visual coming downtown, that's one of the first things I see. But after talking to a few people, they're like, it should be given a chance too. So my only concern in this as we're getting ready to decide is,
if the bikes are in the parking spaces and karaoke's on the sidewalk, and if they're crowding around the karaoke machine or in and out, who's maintaining that 5-foot space to allow the public to walk through? So that's the only thing I would ask of that group is, you know, please allow, and I'm sure they do, but that would be a concern, is to make sure that people are getting through, that's all. I went by there one time last year. So that's all my comment.
Thanks, Ben.
I would just add, I think when we do get complaints, I was getting some about the noise, and if it is disruptive, I think being responsive to the complaints about maintaining the right of way, maintaining or on the sidewalk, the path, the walking path, and also if you do get a complaint about the noise, turning it down, not debating First Amendment. I think that was kind of last year that I was getting the noise complaints, and the police department had to respond, and the police department is going to respond if people can't walk through there. So that's, as long as that is responsive to the complaint and address it, I think that's my main concern.
Thank you, Bill.
I think that's my concern too, is if this really takes off, you know, you could get a lot of people and it could get really congested. But I mean, like I said, I love the idea of having a bike night downtown and, you know, having the streets lined with motorcycles. I think that's awesome. So I'm all in favor for that. But again, yeah, my concern is too, if it really takes off and there's a ton of people outside, just making sure that people can still walk through.
Well, why don't we turn it into a block party?
Just shut the whole street down.
Hey. Thanks, Lindsay.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Thank you for coming out, Tara and John. Appreciate it.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Thanks for your comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to the new proposed DDA event application.
So this came out of last year, that subcommittee that Bill had mentioned with the city. They came up with an application, and we had it on our agenda at the last meeting. A couple changes were requested. Those changes have since been implemented. And so this is kind of our time to make a motion to approve it. If we do approve it, it does turn into us no longer really making recommendations, and more so approving events specifically in downtown.
Was it in our board packet?
So yes, yep, there was, it was in our board packet, and then there was the newest version there was an amendment made to it on yesterday. So that was printed out and provided.
There it is. Okay, sorry, I got 78 pages.
No, you're good.
Some copies here too.
And when we approve or a recommendation to the city, they can override us, right? I mean, they can
They have.
say, you know, we don't care about your recommendation. We're the city council, we'll do what we want.
Yeah.
So we're simply just making a recommendation, but they have every right to go, nah, we're doing it.
Yes.
How do other communities handle these types of things? Because to me, it seems like, what is your preference on what kind of event you like when we're a public body and, it's difficult to make some of those determinations. And it reminds me of things like putting a display up of a religious thing on public property. And if you do that for one, you need to do it for all. So where's the limitations or any kind of guidance on that?
So I can just tell you from my experience, when I required, in the previous community I worked for, they'd require 60% of the neighbors in the block to approve it. And even that wouldn't necessarily mean you get the street closed or you can do something on the sidewalk. But it was just kind of is this something that the area wants? So and you have to, I think it's just making a process so that people are informed of what's going on and can make a statement. But yeah, basically the city would need to shut down streets, but.
Sure. I think there would be less of these kind of decisions coming to the DDA board if events were community led by organizations like the DDA and the chamber and things like that. So I just wanted to
I don't think we get very many
throw out my 2 cents
requests.
for events.
Yeah.
I wish we got more.
It's picked up in the last 2 years.
Do you have any comments about this proposed application, Bill?
I think it just kind of formalizes it more, and I think that, one thing I talked to earlier on, if the board would approve this and have it where the DDA should approve an event before it gets to the city council, I think that would be counter to what Sammy was mentioning, but it would almost have to be approved by this board before it goes up, and that would kind of perhaps force interaction with, some of these event holders.
Do you think that would streamline the process as well?
I think it would, and I think it would get feedback from this group at the beginning, as opposed to
Gotcha.
a little bit, then it coming back, and we kind of force that interaction.
I would just, because this is my time to give my input, right?
Please, yeah.
Okay. I would just like to see the event coordinator is responsible for trash cleanup. In the event that that doesn't happen, what would DPW then the next morning charge to come through and do some cleanup? There were some broken bottles and cigarette butts after an event last year. And I don't want my 14-year-old, staff that might open on a Saturday morning or a Friday morning or whatever, go out there picking up broken glass.
Yeah, and as I think about, we're talking about TJ's and talk about it here because they're on the docket. I don't think it's fair to say it's their fault because at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, someone's got a beer bottle, they're throwing it. It wasn't the event issue, something they couldn't control. So I don't think it's fair to come back and say it's TJ's or talk about it didn't clean up. So I think we have to be conscious of that as well. But I agree. I'm not,
You're right.
trash needs to be taken care of, but
Yes.
we do have people who are unruly outside of the hours that they're operating, so. But yes, this probably should address trash as well.
We could propose to add something like that in here and approve this at the same time, or we could send it back.
Yeah, because we can add it to that item where the event organizer is responsible for trash cleanup and must provide a, cleanup plan. And then we can throw in a comment about DPW, but yeah, probably be just easier to make the approval to at this meeting, then we can make that amendment with it.
Does the board want to do anything with this?
I'll make a motion to approve it with the trash modification.
Okay. Do you want to be specific about it, or do you want to let staff handle
Let staff handle it. I recommend to let staff handle
it? Okay. You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a motion from Bruce.
I'll second that emotion.
Thanks. Any further discussion?
I wondered if, Bruce, if you would consider modifying your motion to also recommend that the city council modify the events policy to include an approval by the DDA prior to considering at the council level.
Yes, what do you say?
Nicole, you caught all that?
Deanna? Is it, do you second that as well?
I second that, is
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Clear as mud. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks for your work on that. Speaking of social district,
So we have some more social district applications as well as just some updates. So the first line of the American Legion has decided not to renew social district, so they will be removed from social district material. Just wanted to make sure the board is aware of
is there
that.
an annual fee associated with the social district?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What is that? Do you know? Remember?
Between $200 and $300.
Okay.
What does that go to? Can we ask questions?
Go ahead.
What does it go to?
I believe it just goes to the MLCC.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's all just part of underneath your liquor license when you renew.
Okay, thanks. Any negative impacts from the American Legion? Not, okay.
No, I mean, it's just a personal choice. I mean, they probably just didn't see enough usage out of it. And I mean, that's just a guess, but I'm assuming, that's probably why they decided not to renew it, but it doesn't impact us in any way. We just had to update our application.
Okay, and we don't need to approve that.
No,
Okay.
that was just informational.
And the Love Wines LLC Wine Studio, there's an application in for them?
Yes,
Okay.
and so we're just looking for a recommendation to approve that for city council to give local unit approval for that social district.
And
as well as 350 River Street.
Yep, and so that's the El Catrine. They already had a social district, but kind of, it gets weird with how they're doing the liquor license for the new restaurant that's going in there. It's no longer the same like LLC that holds on to the liquor license for that property. And so they have to go back through the social district application process, and that's why it's kind of before us. It's kind of, yeah.
Do we need to do these separately?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So first up is Love Wines LLC.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Sammy, second from Bruce. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The third one, 350 River Street. Is there a name associated with that one? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's technically public though, I
Okay.
guess.
Do we? Can
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe it's public yet, so
Can we approve it without a name?
yeah.
Okay.
The business at 350 River Street.
I think that's what it's
Or,
called.
I guess, do we
That's
need,
great.
do we
It's
need?
called the business.
I came up with that on the
Correct
fly.
me if I'm wrong, but it will be made public at city council
Okay.
meeting when they
They'll
approve
need to
it.
put their.
Okay, so I mean, so it's Don Tequila is the name of the restaurant.
Okay.
Don Tequila Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there
I'll make that motion.
motion from Sammy,
Second.
second from Bruce? Fight over it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to new business, Manistee collaboration MOU.
So with the airport collaboration that we're doing, for like Manistee County Cash, just making sure that there's an understanding between organizations. And so this MOU is between the DDA and the chamber, just an understanding of, you know, what this program's gonna look like and kind of what the responsibilities are for each entity. And just to formalize it a little more and make sure that both have protection. And so we were looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Bruce,
Second.
second from Ben. Can you clarify? I'm a little bit confused as to what this is. Sorry.
Sure, so it's the, I mean, the MOU specifically or the program itself with the airport?
The program, are we talking about the?
Yeah, so it's the program that Adam Downs presented
Okay,
at the
all right.
last meeting, and so this, just with how the money's working, it's
Okay.
kind of funneling, the program's gonna funnel through Manistee County Cash, which is operated through the chamber.
Gotcha.
And so this is kind of an agreement or a memorandum of understanding between the DDA and the chamber of this is what the program's.
Understood. Okay, now we can.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
Updated DDA bylaws.
So at the last city council meeting, there were the DDA bylaws on their agenda, and there was a error because back in 2019, there was a DDA amendment that changed some language of the mayor of the city is going to be on the DDA to the city manager will be the seat at the city seat on the DDA. That was never formally uploaded to the DDA website back in 2019. That's when there was some fluctuation of DDA administrator. And so when we made our bylaw amendment back in 24 in August, I believe it was, that 2019 edition was not used to update it. And so Heather, the city clerk, caught that and was like, hey, we just need to merge these two documents together. Because they were both separately approved. And so city council was able just to make that merger. And Bill, do we need a motion because they're already approved by the DDA. So do we need a motion to actually approve those bylaw changes because city council already did it?
I don't know that you need it, you could just proceed it.
Okay.
If you wanted to further solidify it, you could.
Let's have a motion on that, just to formally cement it then.
Motion to have Kyle sign the document.
Okay.
Motion from Bill,
Second.
second from Bruce. And
I'm sorry, what are we motioning to?
Bill made a motion to have me sign the updated bylaws, I believe, right, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. And Bruce seconded it. The only discussion I have is when I remember
the mayor coming to me when I was chair saying, I don't want to be on the DDA board. Maybe the city manager should be, but at that time, I thought it was just, it said city representative, but now it's formally being changed to city manager, correct?
Okay,
Okay,
Was that?
it was then, okay.
I think there was a lot more turnover at mayor at that point too, where I think it was, they have some stability with the city representative.
Okay. All right.
It was before my time.
Not mine. Any further discussion?
I don't want to belabor any of this, but do we need to like re-examine the bylaws in general at all, or just go with,
You don't read them?
well, yeah, but
Annually, we do, right?
Yeah,
That's-
we were required to. Yeah.
So I think
Next
that,
meeting, you said?
this is updating it, but I think we should take a closer look next year when we, if you do it when, it's like March or April.
And I know we were trying to get like a strategic plan set, but then it got on pause due to streetscape work. And so I believe we wanted to have the bylaw review within that greater strategic
Yeah.
planning meeting. And
Yeah.
so now that that's on pause, we'll have to make sure we do have that separate meeting or special meeting just for reviewing the bylaws.
if there's like a opportunity for like an ad hoc on the bylaws or whatever, I'm happy to look at that.
Perfect.
Sammy loves ad hoc committee. Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on again to public comment.
Yeah, I want to say a couple things. So I was reading through the letter I sent out, and I did not mean to insinuate that anyone disliked veterans. That is not my angle at all, just as my standpoint. It was more the nightlight thing. I think I'm concerned for our downtown, not wanting any type of nightlife at all. I've lived in many places, I'm well-traveled, and any town that is thriving has some sort of nightlife. I'm not saying like, loud until 2 a.m. I'm just saying some sort of vibrance and life at night. And I understand a lot of residents, including my neighbor across the street, likes to go to bed at 8:30. Honestly, that's not my concern, what time you want to go to bed. You choosing like to live downtown. So I just want to clarify that I'm so sorry if that letter, Lindsay insinuated that you guys don't like a certain, it's more like my defense of nightlife. Like my place, I compete with a lot of other Mexican restaurants, and my kind of foot up is being able to run some sort of nightlife on the weekends and adding a Thursday 9 o'clock cutoff time. And honestly, I am more than willing to comply with whatever. Like I can tell Red, turn it down, or hey, if we have to switch it over, let's just do street like trivia. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I'm willing to like work with John and try to make things work, clearance, all that stuff. I can even put some staff out there to make sure there is always sidewalk clearance so we can move people around. We're also going to move the whole front, and I forgot to put this in the whole front where the tables are. We're actually going to remove those tables so that there's places inside to also stand, have the door open, so we can maybe have people gravitate inside and like right in front of our building and not just on the sidewalk. I don't remember there being a ton of issues. I remember one Thursday where we had a crowd that was waiting to get in, and I know it was hard, but that's typical for a July. Even if we don't have bike night going on, having people, it's just crammed on that side. Now that we don't have deck, maybe that'll help a little bit, but now there's gonna be cars there, so. But I just wanna make sure that you guys know I'm not accusing anyone of hating a certain group of people. It's just more, I see the city fight against nightlife a lot and having anything go on downtown. I understand there's concerns with like broken bottles and stuff, but again, I see people that don't even come into my place, walk past at midnight, coming from wherever else, carrying a bottle, which is completely legal. You shouldn't have an open bottle anyway. And it's not my bottle, but I still go out and say something, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. Whether they do it or not, that's on them, but it does happen. And it's kind of nice with being downtown. I get to see what really goes on sometimes past midnight, so yeah. Even the bathrooms across from me are concerned. The cops are over there all the time because people just go in there and do whatever, so yeah. I just want to clarify, not trying to at all accuse anyone of anything like that, just nightlife, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thanks for coming. Board member comments. Ben?
Thanks for being here, Tara.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
It's a hard one, So appreciate you being here. I like the idea of nightlife, so.
So no, it doesn't have to be like, we don't gotta be there, just a little later sometimes. It honestly has increased my revenue by like 25%. I've been able to hire 2 more bartenders for the summer. That's a big deal. You
It
know,
is.
it's a big deal.
It is, so appreciate that. So thank you for being here. Appreciate the board kind of going back, taking another look at it, so being objective. So
Thanks,
nice work.
John. Tyler?
I'm all set.
Okay, Sammy. Lindsay?
I just a comment on the block party, just thank you for the support from the DDA. You know, we chose to do a second one because the community really enjoys them. And, you know, my thought going into every year is I'm just gonna do one, that's all I can handle. And then I get the complaints of, oh, we're just doing one, you're just doing one. And even my staff, it's like, we're only doing one. So that is why this second one got put in kind of at the last minute. I was able to find a good band. So again, just thank you for your support on that.
Yeah?
Again, just thank you for being here.
Yeah.
It's great, and there's nothing wrong with nightlife downtown. From running the inn standpoint, people are constantly asking like, what is there to do? So that's fun, that's encouraging, and good for you for putting more employees on. That's, at the end of the day, that's a win, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good for you, thank you.
I would just like to publicly recognize Karen and her service all these years on the DDA. We have a new board member coming on, Jamil Alam, who's the owner of, and his wife own the Golden Stag, so hopefully he'll be here at the next meeting. Anything from staff?
None here?
Thanks for everything. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ben.
I'll second.
Thanks for being here, guys.